Hi, this is Linda West with Living Live, and today I have the pleasure, and you guys don't even know, just wait till you hear this guy. I am going to introduce to you one of my mentors, Bill Stierle. Now, I met Bill at a conference called CEO Space. He's one of the faculty there, and he got up and spoke the very first time I was there. I heard him speak, and I was just in amazement with what he taught me in the short period of time that we had in his class. And so I ended up working with him as, my coach. I had him coach me, and I learned so much vastly and more that I imagined I could learn. And he's still teaching me on a daily basis, So I want to just go into his real bio in just a second here. But before we get going, if you know people who sometimes may have a difficulty expressing themselves or may have a difficulty communicating with people. I'm sure you probably know somebody who you find that, oh my gosh, it's really hard to communicate with this person. Then I really want you to share this video out, because Bill is going to give us some tips and tricks of how you can go into a conversation and you can kind of, I don't want to say take control, but in a way, take control of the conversation so that it ends up being a mutual exchange instead of, like confronting each other. So go ahead and share this video out. Now, you can also find Bill at corporateculturedevelopment.com. Amazing website. Go take his quiz. He has a quiz there about personalities. It's a great, great quiz. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I want you guys to go take that as well. So I'm going to introduce you to Bill Stierle. Now, with his 23 years of consulting expertise, Bill Stierle's impact is being felt daily inside of the world's top business schools, Fortune 500 companies, nonprofit organizations, and countless government institutions throughout the world. Bill is a dynamic and commanding thought leader in the integration of emotional intelligence and thinking styles technology. He's the founder of Corporate Culture Development, and he has a unique and extensive knowledge for developing and implementing successful training programs. Now, Bill, I want to welcome you to the show, and I was so ecstatic when you said yes, that you would be interviewed on my show. So welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Linda, it's a really delight to be here. I feel grateful for not only you having me on, but the chance to be able to coach you and participate in your business growth and your thinking upgrades, because all of us human beings need to take a little bit of time to do thinking upgrade. And there's three different ways that thinking upgrades take place. The first way that a thinking upgrade takes place is that we want to really capture and understand what our limiting beliefs are and how those limiting beliefs are impacting us. And is this a belief that really might have served us when we were 7 years old, but really doesn't serve us today? It's like we may want to upgrade that belief. Because some people are still running a 7-year-old belief and they're 50-something or 70-something.
I totally was doing that. When I first met you and then we started working together, you just really helped me to tap into that, to realize that I was holding on to so many things as a child. And excuse me, people, I do realize I typoed. Okay. So it's okay. It's all good. That's capture limiting beliefs there. But we hold on to, let's talk about that before we get into numbers 2 and 3, talk about that a little bit, about how, our childhood shapes us, and we can either hold on to it forever or we can learn how to let that go. You want to share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, let's do it through an example. I grew up in a big family, and one day we all went to the beach together. There were 6 of us kids walking on the beach, and we all piled back into the red station wagon and drove home, and we got all the way home and jumped out of the car, and there were only 5 kids in the car instead of 6 kids in the car.
Oh, no.
Now, the question is my sister Kathy was left at home, at the beach. What?
Did she run away, or did she get left?
No, right. Now, all of a sudden it's like, everybody back in the car. So we all drove back to the beach, and Kathy was sitting there on the bench, and somehow there was another little girl there, and they were playing. Now, here's where the limiting belief comes in.
Yes.
My mom left me, my family left me, or I'm having a great time playing with this little girl. It doesn't matter. to see which she could play any one of those matters. If she plays it, my mom left me, then there's a disconnect between her and her mom for the next 50 years if she chooses to play that pattern. So far, so good. If
Yeah.
she has it that my family left me, then I don't care or trust anything about you because you left me. You all left me. You didn't even look
Right.
for me. I don't
Right.
count. I'm not worth anything. Or I'm just playing with this little girl on the beach and you guys were gone. I didn't even know. It
That's,
had
yeah.
minimal impact.
So what's
Now,
interesting
each one
about,
of us,
oh, go
yeah,
ahead. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, what's
Yeah,
interesting
and
about you mentioning that story is I ran away when I was 5 years old, and I was gone for a whole week. And at the end of the week, I was just at the neighbor's house, but still I was gone for a whole week and I intended to be gone forever. But my mom called up after a week and said, okay, it's time to send Linda home now. So I've been toying with this just recently. So it's interesting you bring this up because, talking about that, I was thinking, gosh, as a 5 year old, did I think my mom didn't love me because she let me stay away forever? Or was I upset when she came to get me? you know, like I had all these things to toy with, and I think I'm okay with it. I don't know though.
yeah.
Ooh,
Well, there's different ways that those events impact us based on the meaning that we're assigning to the event. So we're assigning a meaning to it. And, I mean, there's been a slogan that I say often, we're meaning making machines, right? So something happens to us and we interpret it in a way and then create a belief around that event or situation and a meaning out of it. And it causes a disconnect, possibly. It causes a compulsion. We work really hard because my dad wouldn't love me unless I worked really hard with him. It's like it gets a little wacky this way, right? Because we're
yeah.
assigning this belief. So a limiting belief, there's nothing really wrong with it, except for it's usually established in the past, and regrettably, many limiting beliefs are designed around either the word safety or the word validation. Those two words. So safety is I'm going to take this thing as the most dangerous thing that happened to me so that it never happens again. That's a safety narrative. A
Okay.
validation narrative is, see that? I I can't trust you. Here's another piece of evidence that I can't trust you. Here's another piece of evidence that you don't love me. Here's another piece of evidence that you don't want to connect with me. Here's another piece of evidence. See how beliefs work? This is not a good thing.
Ooh, let me ask a question on that. So, when we have a belief about something, so like let's say, for example, in that situation, Kathy, she's like, nobody in the family loves me. They all left me behind, kind of thing. So from that point forward, like let's say she never voices it, and she just holds on
Yes.
to it in her head. So from that point
Yes.
forward, does she kind of start like her reticular activation system comes into play, where she's always looking for things that she can just validate that the family doesn't love me?
So true. That's exactly the way that works. Because it's a protective strategy. It's a validation. Our brain sets up, this front part of the brain here has 400,000 neural connections to it. There's like a logic piece up here, and there's a future oriented piece over here. So our creativity and our logical language is over here. And it's 400,000. The back part of the brain has 4.3 million connections. And here's what's there. Emotion and habit and validation is here. Safekeeping is here. So safekeeping and emotion, watch how the sentence go. This gets really bad. Watch how this is. But if we know it, then we can use something about it. Emotion and habit always wins over logic and future thinking because it's a 10-to-1 ratio in its bandwidth. So say this back to me. Say, I'm going to make a New Year's resolution. Say that back to me. Uh-oh, did we lose each other?
No, I had myself muted because I wanted to make sure that they could hear you. Okay, I want to
Okay.
make a New Year's resolution. Okay, you guys all say it back to yourselves out loud. I want to
Right.
make a New
Same
Year's
thing.
resolution.
I make a New Year's resolution. I'm going to lose 10 pounds in January.
I'm going to lose 10 pounds in January.
Now, you can make that resolution, and at the New Year's party, as you're walking through the kitchen, your emotion and your habit reaches over, grabs the cookie, has it in your mouth before you have a chance. Now you have the cookie in your mouth and you're chewing the cookie. So far, so good. Here's what your brain says. I'll start tomorrow. I have a whole month. Oops. Because the elephant part of brain, the emotion, looks like a tasty cookie. The habit, yes, there's a bunch of sugar cookie in here. Yeah, I might as well chew on that. These two things, this is like an elephant, and this is like a little rider sitting on the top with a little stick.
Okay.
The elephant wins unless you tap it gently. Changing a belief and changing a habit is a gentle tap. It's a secretive tap. You do not want to tell the elephant necessarily where you're going. You just want to gently tap it by saying, not today on the cookie. Oh, no, that was not today. I'm full. I feel good. I'm choosing health today. Those are gentle taps to try to get the elephant to move in the direction. Because as soon as you put an absolute down, the elephant will go, oh, yeah?
Okay. So an example of an absolute in that instance might be might be what? I'm trying to think because I've caught myself with a cookie with a cookie in my mouth, eating it, saying, I shouldn't be eating this right now. I know I shouldn't be eating this right now, but I'm eating this right now, and I finish it.
So your rider is taking the stick and whap, whap, whap. You shouldn't, whap, 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 and hitting the pound in the elephant. The elephant goes, oh, yeah? Well, wait till tomorrow. You're going to try to overpower me? You cannot overpower the elephant. You've got to gently train the elephant. And this is the same in business. This is the same at creating a new future for ourselves. This is the same at causing a path of direction to take place. Because if you want to change your experience, small messages that are acted upon without any thinking, you don't want to confuse the rider or scare the elephant.
Okay.
Confuse the rider or scare the elephant. Confuse the rider would say, hey, you have this big program that you need to do and all these things. And the elephant goes, oh, my God, and sits down. And then all of a sudden you're a month later and you go like, didn't I want to do that new educational initiative? Like, nope. The elephant sat down and it's been sitting down because you scared the crap out of it.
Yeah, literally.
The same thing with money. Same thing with money. People would be scared. If I win the lottery, if people win the lottery, 77% of people win the lottery are broke. Are broke. Back to the same thing within 4.5 years.
That's because their habits, right? Because their habits don't change. Is that why? And they just
mindset, belief.
So the belief win the lottery. The first thing you should do if you win the lottery is hire Bill so you can get control of your mindset. Really,
that's right. Because if I choose to make an extra $5,000 a month, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month, as soon as I hit uncomfortable to any of the listeners, their brain says, not in my experience. I've never made that before. I don't know what it would look like if I had that kind of money. That would be scary because then I would spend it, then I wouldn't have it again, and then how would I feel if I spent it and didn't have it again? It's like, what the heck kind of thought is that? But the elephant and the rider are not collaborating with each other.
Right. Oh my gosh. I love
Okay.
it. I
All
love
right.
it.
So that's number one. Number one is getting a hold of beliefs and having a healthy language to get our rider and our elephant together. The
Okay.
healthiest language to have is number two is a needs-based language. That's number two.
Okay.
Number two is I want to start cultivating not a goal-based language, but a needs-based language.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold the phone, because we hear about setting your goals, SMART goals, and all this stuff. So you're saying poo-poo on that. Okay, let's hear it.
One of the things that happens with goals, and many of us have set many, many goals, including myself. Here's some goals for me. I want to get this done by Friday. And we've actually making a commitment for it. If our elephant and our rider are not in alignment with that, and we're not in alignment with our needs, the elephant will sit down, the rider will get confused. So, if I have a need for progress, and progress looks like getting an agenda down for my talk with Linda today, if that's what it would look like, well, then I know what progress would look like is I'm just going to do an outline. Now, am I going to do the No, I'm just doing this outline first because that's what progress would look like. Mm-hmm. I got the outline, I set it down. If I want to write a book, many times I'll do the cover first. Here's the cover. Here's the back. Wow. How does that look? I don't know, but it's a good place to start. And I all of a sudden I write the book, and I start writing this, 30-page document or 100-page document, and all of a sudden I'm going like, the cover doesn't really match the book that I have, and now the cover is informing the book, and the book's informing the cover. But what did I just do? I met my need for progress and a sense of creativity or vision about what I'd like to see.
Which is important, right? Along the way for us to recognize too that you're meeting your needs for progress. So it just, for me, it makes me feel good to know that I am making progress, so that it makes me want to keep going.
Right. Because all of a sudden you're starting to feed off of smelling the roses. You hear that sentence, stop and smell the roses. Yeah. All that sentence is really actually trying to mean is enjoy the process of walking through the garden, which is the garden of creativity. I want to enjoy myself by walking through the garden, because otherwise, and many people have experienced this, they win the award, they win the Super Bowl or the basketball championship or whatever, or they finish a big play, they finish a big movie, they win an Oscar, and they're empty the next day. Yeah, I got it.
I met an NFL player just the other day, and he told me that exact same thing. He had been in Pop Warner, junior high school, college, and then he made it to NFL and got a Super Bowl ring. And he was like, it was no big deal, because I guess he hadn't been enjoying the journey, right?
No, he was not enjoying the journey. Wow. He was white knuckling his way through the experience with a series of, now it gets unsettling, with a series of goals, motivations, arm twisting, fighting through injury, a certain amount of struggle, and all of a sudden, because there wasn't a sense of joy or play or a connection to it, well, that didn't go so well.
Yeah.
There was a sense of emptiness at the other side. Now, there are many, many, many champions. Many champions will say the sentence, I really worked hard on the goal, and my primary belief sentence, remember number one, was no one's going to take this championship from me. And some people white knuckle that one, and they go, well, at least I won, a championship. or 2 or 3 or whatever,
Right.
because they knuckled it. And at least I'm not like those other losers over there. And all of a sudden, though, but they missed the joy in the thing that they were doing. And it's really disheartening. So far, so
Yeah.
good? So if we follow a need, let's say the need for respect, or the need for connection, or the need for support, or the need for cooperation or collaboration, if we start to follow these needs, it becomes a little bit easier to align our vocabulary and get our elephant and our rider to cooperate. We got to get them, this part and this part, to talk to each other.
Okay, so how do you, oh yeah, before we go further, let's say hi to a couple people. We have, George is here, and Terry and Roy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have any questions for Bill as we go along, please go ahead and put them in the comments. And then if you're watching the replay, also go ahead and put questions in the comments, because Bill will be able to answer those at a later time. Okay, so Bill, how do we tap into discovering what our needs are so we can meet them?
That's a great question. When we're discovering what our needs are, we're actually going to pay attention to the subtle moments where we're starting to experience joy. So, for example, if you and I are talking right now and we choose to set the intention of connection, okay? And watch this. The intention of connection will take place between you and I over the next year. By every 3 months, 4 times a year, you and I visit for a half an hour to check in on our growth, to bring the next level of wisdom, knowledge, and experience that we've gained, to take a look at where we've been on the journey. Can you see how much more joyous that is if you and I set the intention to 3 months from now, we're going to be there, we're going to reconnect, and then we're going to share and exchange knowledge at that time.
And we're actually going to do that. So we are about every 3 months. Bill and I are going to check in here. We're going to, do a live show here where we can share, some things. He grows all the time too, even though like you're a mega expert in this area, but you're still constantly growing and learning about yourself, learning about other people, learning about corporations, and learning about all that stuff he's going to share with us. So just wanted to interject and say that.
So look how your body felt as I started to talk about us connecting over on a regular basis over a year's period of time.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to connect with this, or connect with this myself. So how my body feels about that is because I really love your energy, and every time I'm around you, it uplifts me, and because of that, I'm really looking forward to it, and I got excited. When you mentioned that. And so that tells me that in order for me to be in alignment with me living my life in a joyous way and enjoying the journey along the way, is I need to connect with Bill on a regular basis, right?
Right. And now you feel excited because you're getting connection, and there's a certain amount of stability that's showing up. Those are the 2 needs, connection and consistency. And you're feeling energized and joy.
Exactly. And even just, here's what's crazy about it, right? Is even just thinking about that, even though it's future, it's future, we're going to make it happen later, but still just thinking about that puts my mind and my body in a state of joy. Right.
Your physiology is directly connected to what your need is. That was not goal setting.
Right. Not at all. Yeah.
That was need setting. We set the need in place.
My need for joy, connection. My need for being happy.
You could say connection, the need for learning is in there, and the need for contribution. Actually, it's more connection and contribution.
Okay, awesome. Now we have a question here from Roy Montero. He says, Bill, my question is that a person's behavior is determined by what they believe. Therefore, to change your behavior about anything, just change your belief about it. Do you agree? And can you unpack that either way, please?
Boy, I'll be happy to. Belief is 1/3 of the triad of behavior. So the first part of it, the belief affects behavior, needs affect behavior, and then a person's thinking strength affects behavior, and that's number 3 on our list. So number
Okay.
3 is a person's thinking preferences affect our behavior. Okay, so thinking preferences is number 3. So
Okay.
unpacking this, what unpacking this looks like is, here's what the belief part will do, influences. Here's what a need influences. And here's what a thinking preference influences. So let me go over thinking preferences. There are 4 and a combination of those 4 different thinking preferences. And I'm going to be very simple and succinct. If somebody thinks in a logical, analytical place, that person might be like an engineer. An engineer thinks differently than a social worker. A
Mm,
social worker is about talking with people and connecting with them and helping and supporting them. And then an engineer is about logical and rational thinking. Does it make sense then that a person's behavior has a origin or a foundation in their thinking? So this person's good at math, this person's good at people. I don't want my math person talking to my people person. I don't want my people
right.
person talking to math person, because that doesn't go so well.
Right.
Okay, so that's 2 of the 4. Well, let's take a look at this other one up here. If somebody is very holistic and open-minded, like let's say an entrepreneur or an artist, they've got to think outside the box in a very conceptual way, in a very synthesizing way, and a innovative way. Whereas if I take a person that's more structured, like maybe a police officer or a drill sergeant that is following the rules, a drill sergeant thinks very different than an artist does. This one
Right.
is going to follow sequence, order, structure, the ability to do things in a very safekeeping way. This person is going to engage risk easier than this person is going to. So I've got my drill sergeant and my engineer up here, and I've got my artist and my social worker over here. The number 3, the thinking preference, is the third thing that influences human behavior. And it's really only those 3 things. I've been looking for the last 27 years now or so about how to answer those questions. It's coming from one of those 3 places. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a lot of pathology or suffering or tragic things that root of those things, but even those things are coming from those 3 things I just described. It's coming
Mm.
from those 3 places. So if somebody is really a terrible person, it's still coming from those 3 things. If somebody's a really good person, it's still coming through those 3 things.
So that's so interesting. And one thing you do, and we didn't talk about this ahead of time, so I'm hoping that we can do this. I'm not sure if it's possible, but Bill, you have your 4 color cards. I don't know what you call them, but they're 4 different colors. So we
Yes.
have red, green, yellow, and blue. And what they do is they help you to see what personality type you are. So myself, like I know my personality type based on my colors. And what it does, this was an amazing exercise you did. And can we do this exercise when we come back in 3 months?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So
Okay.
like the engineer is like the blue card, and the social worker is like the red card. The entrepreneur and artist is like the yellow card, and the drill sergeant police officer is like the green card. So each of those things have a influence. Now, you can mix those things together. See, if I take a engineer and I mix it with a drill sergeant, I get a accountant. So an accountant is doing this blue number thing and also doing this green structured thing. I have a artist and I mix it with a social worker, I get a teacher. or a counselor, because they're a blend of those two things. And then in business, it's if I take a CFO in blue and I take a VP of human resources in red, you see how I just applied it to business? Watch this. I take my VP of marketing in yellow and I take my a COO, chief operations officer, in green. I have now started down the process of building an executive team.
And what's cool about this, so I'll share how I used it actually in my personal life. I intended to use it in my business life, which I have used it. But initially I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have my husband take the test and I take the test. And what was cool is we were able to then learn how to communicate so much better with each other, more clearly, more concise. Like I know that he's like a boom, boom, boom. He's like the one that's like the engineer. And I'm
That's
totally
right.
opposite of the engineer. But it taught me that I can't go into like my whole long story like I like to go into, because he gets lost. He just loses interest in what I'm talking about. So it's taught me to go in and just go, number one, number two, number three, number four, give him the details. And then now we can come to an agreement a lot faster on things. And we're going to.
And he'll listen to the story after. He'll actually listen to the story after. You can actually go, okay, here's the bottom line. Here's the thing. And then, oh, by the way, there's a little story. Oh, please tell me about the story. Because they're attracted. The opposite is attracted to us because they don't have the thing that we have. They don't have our superpower. They don't have our mindset there, which is it's so interesting. It's like, oh my gosh. And they appreciate it. If you appreciate the differences, that's a big part of number 3 and thinking preferences is to get in the space of observation and appreciating a person's strengths and appreciating the things they don't have. And the reason why I say appreciating the things that they don't have is because if they had the things they don't have, they wouldn't have the things they have. It's like if I take away the person's strength and try to make if I try to make an artist a drill sergeant,
right,
that will not go well.
Yeah.
If I try to make a social worker study calculus, what am I thinking about? That is not going to go well.
And this is where it works really well in business. Okay, so before we go forward, I just want to address hi, April. Good to see you. And so Roy says he's a green. He already knows that. So maybe, Roy, if you can figure out like what your secondary color is, that'd be kind of cool, like a green what? And then George, so next time when I have Bill on this show, which will be in about 3 months, we're going to talk about the colors. And it's really a great process to go through because it can help you in your personal life as well as in your business, or even if you're an employee, it can help you like learning how to communicate with your superiors or how to communicate with your coworkers.
Absolutely.
Now, Roy says he prefers to call it an assessment rather than a test.
Yeah. I mean, the
April
survey
says it sounds kind of like the professional version of the 5 love languages. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a different bridge to cross if you talk about the 5 love languages, and that might be another one that we do. But they do fall into some of those similar care categories, and it really is interesting to see how somebody's need for appreciation and acknowledgement, which is received different than somebody that is in the place of service and contribution, those are different love languages altogether. And a person's ability to adjust to that, but more importantly, to be able to receive and appreciate each one of those different languages that the person would like to participate in, then, if is a whole hour or 2 hours or 3 hours of talking to how to actually move it into action. Because a lot of things that I do in my trainings or my individual coaching is to help my clients to go deeper in to understanding and opening up their perception and perspective in a way to reduce conflict and to save time. So with my executive clients, I'll say the following sentence. My target is to save you 90, somewhere between 2 hours and 90 minutes a day. I'm going to save you after doing training, I'm going to save you 2 hours a day. Now, think about that from an executive. Isn't it a good idea for them to save 10 hours a week just by communicating better? And they will save 10 hours and more sometimes. They'll go, I do not communicate like this because when I did, it caused these 7 other things that cost me hours of time. Well, now you're not talking like that anymore. You're being more succinct. Is this a belief shift that we need? Is this a need identification and clarification that we need? Is this leveraging, number 3, a person's preference and strength because we have the wrong people in place?
Yeah, and that's so important because I'm thinking about, like when you go to hire a bookkeeper, for example, if they're a person who they're like just trying to get a job and they happen to be a good bookkeeper, but really they're an artistic person, they might not be happy in that job and might not do as well as they would in some other type of position, right? I mean,
that's correct. That's correct. They might not. Now, here's the weird part about that. I came in, worked with an executive team. The 2 co-owners, those 2 folks, they were on the yellow-red side of the fence. And after I did the training with them and their staff of 25, I think at the time, after I did the training, as we're in the middle of this training, here's what one of the others said. No wonder why we have been through 4 different accountants over the last 3 years, because we don't know how to hire an accountant that can actually support us. All the accountants were more friends of ours rather than skilled practitioners for our industry. Then I said, oh, and all of a sudden I was going like, well, how much money did I just save you? Somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 just by that insight, because they would have churned and burned 1 or 2 more of those accountants, or not been able to hire the right person too. Anyway.
Yeah,
that makes some sense.
Yeah, just it's a lot of information, and we will go into more detail on that for our next show. Like I said, we're going to come together every quarter to talk about this. And Bill, I mean, oh my gosh, I could talk to you for literally hours, which I think I have done. And we're already at 40 minutes. I can't believe it. And this is 30 minutes.
Isn't that amazing? It's magical. Yeah, it's magical how time flies. And we did get the summarization of these 3 different elements. And I'm doing, and I'll send you the link to this. I'm doing a webinar on leadership and leadership clarification, and to get people to experience that a little bit. I'll send a link for your listeners and things like that. And it's really taking these 3 features and then applying them to leadership values and qualities. Because if somebody is thinking and speaking in a step-by-step unfolding of the topic in green, is different than somebody that's speaking in an overview and a conceptual framework. So those are 2 different language vibrations. And then if somebody's thinking in interpersonal and feeling-based over here, it's different than brief, clear, precise information like you were talking about your husband, which is a blue value set, which is different than red. And it's so important to save time. Saving time. Time's our commodity. Time's what we're exchanging. Time is really where the value set is. And if we're saving that, and then it's really worth it. And you can imagine what that would be like to start reclaiming bolts and bolts of time that we're spending saying the same thing over and again, or having a junky marketing message, or having a terrible sales script. Anyway. Sorry, yeah. I just rant on this stuff. It's good.
I know, because it's truly amazing. And the thing is that this could be confusing. And I saw somebody mention that it could be a little bit confusing with the colors. George mentioned that, but it can be, because to get started and understanding it, it actually takes time, as he was mentioning, to learn these traits. You learn how to use this stuff.
Right, exactly, and knowing what to say next. If we know what the person's thinking style is and what their needs are, we know what they're going to say and do next. Just changes it.
Yeah.
It
And
all
it's
it all shifts.
what I found is it's helped me. I'll go back to my marriage life because I've been with my husband for 30 years, and
Wow.
I found myself often. I'm going to admit this out loud. Okay, I found myself often practically like rolling my eyes when he was talking because he was talking in this engineer language that just didn't interest me. And then once I learned that was the way he communicates, I'm very calm now. And I just sit there and say, he needs to say this. He needs to say it in this way. And that's okay, because now I can like piece together the pieces that I need in order to be able to communicate back with him. So it's
right.
It's
right. Oh my gosh. Think about that. Think about that. Just that reduction of time. Oh, you just made my day. Actually, you really, I really feel grateful to hear that. So
I'm still married because of Bill Stierle. Oh, by the way, I'm still looking forward to meeting that guy, Scott. Remember?
Oh gosh, right? Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get going now because we're on 45 minutes. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We'll look at some of the comments a little bit later and respond to those. Bill, are you from Hollywood, Florida?
Yes, I am originally. Yep.
How'd you know that, April?
Wow. See?
She moved to Knoxville, Tennessee from Davie, Florida. Small world. How did she?
Oh my gosh, small world, small world. How about that, April? Wow, that's wonderful. Oh my gosh.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm popping the comments on top and they're not showing up. I'm not sure why, but
yeah, I see them. I see them now. Yeah, I see them.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. And again, if you have any questions, she was vetting you out.
Nice.
Hey, April, you should have him on your show. If you want to have him on your show, let me know. I'll connect you guys, or you can make the connection however you want to do that.
That's great fun.
Yeah, Bill's amazing. And we will be back in 3 months. So that would put us at September around this time. You'll have Bill back. Perfect. And we will talk about the colors. And I think what would be cool, Bill, is if we can get them the 4 color, charts, whatever you call them.
Yeah.
So that they can figure out who they are before we come on to the show. What do you think?
Yeah, we can do a little download or something for them, or a PDF or something like that. That'd be great. Okay,
cool. Good. So we'll do that, and we'll have you guys ready for the next show. Again, it'll be September about this time. And Bill, as always, I love having you. And if you guys want to go check out Bill's, it's not showing on the screen. I'm not sure why, but corporateculturedevelopment.com. Go check it out. He does have a lot of great information on his website there. So go check him out. And I look forward to seeing you in 3 months, and I'll see you guys around. Have a great, great day.
Have a great one. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Thanks a lot. All right. Bye-bye.